break down downhill running, again, a lot more extensively, and I'm going to talk about how and why downhill running should not look how it does when you're running flat. As we notice that the amount of time in the air is a little bit greater, because of that, my stride is a little bit longer. Look at how straight I'm landing with my knee. I'll show that a little bit more closely here soon. But because I'm trying to slow and control my descend, when I land, my knee is straighter. It's trying to slow me down. And also, when I land, I want to make sure that I'm not going through the ground. I'm not trying to stop myself. Because if you do that, it is a tremendous amount of more stress on your knee, which we'll touch on. But you'll notice how my air time is longer. And because of that, my number of steps per minute is going to be lower. Okay, this position right here, keep in mind this is a 6% incline grade or decline here. This is mid-stance position. I'm at my lowest point, my arms are even, my thighs are even. Notice the difference. Just like I do when I'm improperly running forward, if I'm sitting my weight back, that's not good for running on a flat surface. It is a necessary part of running downhill. I'm trying to use my body as a throttle. The more I lean forward, it speeds me up. The more I lean back, it slows me down. So that's normal when we're going downhill. So see, because of that, I've got about 6 degrees more of a bend here. Then we have the next phase, initial contact, right? When all that weight starts to get absorbed up the chain, this is that overstriding. We can all agree on that. This, I have a little bit more knee bend. Here, my knee is a little bit straighter. And this is why, and we'll talk about why running downhill is even more stress. Knee injuries are so common as it is. It's because most of us are running like this on a flat surface, which is a lot more stress. And if we're adding on top of that a decline position to that, it just amplifies that like none other. And why does that put stress on the knee? Going back to some of the basics of biomechanics, every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Call that ground reaction forces. 2.5 times your body weight, sometimes more, especially going downhill, is going to go up that chain. So when you land, that's coming right back up at you. And so what can happen is that force has to go somewhere. It's absorbed. Whichever joint it crosses, it acts on that joint. So what happens is this is called the medial lateral axis of your knee. That's a fancy term for if I shoved a rod through the side of your knee, it wouldn't feel good. But that's where the knee acts on. It straightens or extends and bends or flexes the knee. The distance between that axis and this ground reaction force is called a moment arm. What happens is the greater the distance that line is, that force is from that axis, the greater that distance is, the more torque it creates on that joint. It creates what's called a flexion or a bending torque on the knee. Well, what your body has to do to combat that and not just collapse is it has to create an equally strong moment in the opposite direction, or a knee extension torque. We can see with downhill running, that weight is further back than the axis. That is a greater amount of stress. So I'm adding on top of that 2.5 times my body weight is creating this really large bending stress or moment on the knee. The back of the kneecap can be sensitive to that. That's where most of running injuries are anterior knee pain. Running a lot downhill, let me tell you what, I love you guys, so it was worth it. I ran around and did a bunch of films of me running downhill. These knees are 33 years old today, so they're not new, but my knees were sore that next day just from doing a bunch of hill work. So again, this is why. So again, to recap, the safest way to go downhill is turn off the tush. Let gravity do the work. Try to land softly, slight lean back to control that speed, and trying to land just ever so slightly and softly in front of you. Don't try to slow yourself down. So I hope that made sense. Hopefully you guys had some aha moments. If you did, drop a light bulb down below. If you still have questions, please let me know.